All right. I'm glad to see so many friendly, smiling faces. It is really encouraging to get to network with all of you, and I want to thank you again for being in here and working through some of the challenges that we're having. But for the most part, I see a lot of people in here, almost triple what we had last week. So let's keep it up. We're going to do this again next week, and we're going to have 4 more great interviews and have more great discussions. And once again, we are ramping up to that Tile and Stone virtual trade show in about 30 days, May 18th. And I want to remind you guys, any manufacturers, anybody who's interested in taking part of that, we've already got a full list of scheduled educational events, and we're going to use these rooms that we're in right now actually to have our exhibitor hall. And you can reach out to Dang, he's in here, Heather Peterson, or myself, and we can put you in contact with our media kit. And let you know how all that works. And what we're going to do, for instance, it's an exhibitor hall, and people are going to be walking through these rooms to check out your products. We're going to have one of these rooms dedicated just to inventors who are newer in their businesses. They're growing businesses. Some of them are growing spacer businesses. I know Chase is growing a drain system out of Utah. Of course, Rod Cadwick, everybody knows and loves Rod, and we're going to have them in here. And so I know a lot of times tile people are so inventive and they have great ideas and they want to learn about how to do that. So that's going to be the room that you're going to want to check out. And we're going to have a bunch of prizes. We've already collected thousands of dollars worth of prizes from our manufacturers, our sponsors. So we are excited on the 3rd day of that event that we are going to be raffling off a bunch of prizes. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So we've got another great interview here. I'm going to bring to the stage Fran Isaacson. Fran Isaacson. And I know Fran from Instagram. She's got a great Instagram page at Inspiration Kitchen and Bath. You would definitely want to check out Fran over there because she is a designer, she's a builder, and she approaches this. I've already had several conversations, and I'm glad she was a volunteer today to fill in for Dirk Sullivan, who had some technical issues. So we're looking forward to this interview, and she should be joining us here shortly. Hey, Fran.
Hi, buddy. Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for being so flexible and joining us here. I'm excited for this interview.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I am actually sneaking a quick video in for 1 second. I will put it in my Instagram story when this is all over with, and I'll give you a shout out for next week.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like we're having more of those technical issues with Rick here.
We got somebody sneaking in.
No, go ahead.
Rick, see if you can't turn your camera off, and I bet that would.
Yeah. Looking for it.
Yeah.
Hi, Monica. I see you in the chat box there. And Heather, nice to see you guys again. So yeah, just about 20 minutes ago, Luke said, would I like to talk? I'm as is. I'm wearing an Eagles football sweatshirt. Didn't even have time to get changed, so here I am.
Well, we appreciate it, Fran, and we want to get to know you and your story. So why don't you share with us your story, where you're at in the country, and kind of how you got started with the tile. Rick, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you mind maybe jumping out of the room and then jumping back in?
Yeah, I'll try it again.
Okay.
A little bit about my story. I'm located about an hour outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, Montgomery County, in case anybody knows where that is. We have been on a total lockdown since the middle of March, so we've been all off of our projects and everything. So I have lots of spare time right now, which I'm taking advantage of doing extra things like all of this, right? So little bit about my story. I was really interested, Dan Marvin, when he spoke, he said how he used to work American Oleum Tile, Dow Tile, he was in manufacturing. It's kind of funny because I have a very similar start in the business as that a long time ago. I actually worked for American Oleum Tile for 12 years when I was younger. I won't tell you when that is because I don't want to date myself, but I was a lab technician. I went into color formulation and a color specialist at that point. So I was really involved with tile manufacturing, which I really, really loved. to tell you the truth. I was in color formulation, and then like batch to batch, like they would make the glaze in like big vats, and then they would run a test. You'd have to see how the color varied from batch to batch and add ingredients for the finish, the color, all of that. So I was always involved with tile in one way or another. And then I had, my kids were younger, but I was always doing like home renovation. I grew up helping my dad do home renovation projects, like of all types. He was a DIY person. So since I was little, I was always doing something, fixing something, building something, designing something on many different levels. And then one thing led to another. I went to school back, graduated in like early mid 2000s at the Art Institute. I went for residential planning and design, always knowing I wanted to focus on kitchens and bathrooms primarily. So I don't really consider myself like that quintessential interior designer person. If I really had my choice, I would be setting tile. I love tile. I love the labor. I love the projects. I love being dusty and dirty. But somehow then I got a degree in design. Then I somewhere along the way, I morphed into more like a GC. So I am like a design build company. I'm a small business. So I do everything from the first hello to the last, I hope you enjoy your project, and everything in between. So I do the design, I spec the materials, order the materials, I do the project management. And then I have crews of guys. I have a couple tile setters. I have carpenters, blah, blah, blah. But my favorite part of the business is the tile. So nothing makes me happier than to go pick out tile with the client, and then I get to orchestrate it on the project. So I like to get to see all the pieces I picked out and had fun picking out. And then I tell them where this goes, make the mosaic this big over the tub, put the pencil liner over here. So I'm more involved with my projects than like an actual designer person, I would have to think. I see a bunch of people saying, what's the name of my company? It's Inspiration Kitchen and Bath. I'm only on Instagram. I don't have anything other than that for social media right now. But I'm pretty active on there. I have tons of people that I communicate with on a daily basis. Luke is one of them, and that's how I connected, and that's why I'm here today, actually. So that's a little bit about my story. I kind of morphed a couple times from tile manufacturing to design degree to becoming a GC, and then doing projects. I don't know, did I really set out to, bid projects, project management? I don't know. I kind of just like fell into it. There's a need. I feel like that's where my skill set is. And I'm like a project junkie, to tell you the truth, but I love the tile side of it. So even on Instagram, I follow and I talk to a ton of tile setters on there because I really love seeing their work and their jobs in progress and seeing how it looks and all of that. I think part of why I like to do bathrooms so much is because of the tile that's involved. So it's not necessarily like the bathroom per se. It's not this glamorous room to be working in. Sometimes you go look at these bathrooms, the ones that are existing, they're gross. Like you don't even want to breathe inside of some of them. You know what I mean? So nothing makes me happier than to take somebody's gross old room and make it beautiful. So for anybody that's on Instagram, again, my name's Inspiration Kitchen Bath, or you can go to my website. My Instagram shows some stuff. I have to do a little bit better job posting, but my stories, I'm pretty active there, and I try to keep them a little bit crazy and fun because we've all seen enough boring pictures out there. So I try to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, you sure do. And I appreciate it. And that's what it's all about is enjoying life, enjoying the industry. And thank you for sharing that history. What a trip. You and Dan both have similar backgrounds on the same day here. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the chances?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I always say the tile world is a small world, especially online. So it's a fun world. I've been enjoying it. You mentioned that you love the tile. You kind of consider yourself more of a hands-on type of person. Is that correct?
Yeah, totally. Yes. I think the designer crowd kind of, or like maybe some of them fall more into like a decorator, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Sure, that's where your skill set is. I'm more like I couldn't design someone's living room to save my life, and I don't even want to. But when for some reason I see that kitchen, I see that bathroom, it just like clicks like this, you know? So I try to do what I'm good at instead of pretending I'm good at everything. So yeah.
No, that's great. And what tips could you give us contractors to working with designers?
That's a tough one. I will tell you, I have about 5 tile setters that I worked with for many, many years. So we kind of have a really good working relationship. At least I feel that we do. And hopefully they respect what I do on my part of the project. You know, tips are always challenging because tile setters, they have a different mindset than what I do. You guys have to make it happen out in the field, right? So as a designer, you've got that client pushing you. They want the accent strip this big and they want it that long, or they want the mosaic over here. But the tile setter is like, oh, it has to go over here, you know? So it's always kind of tricky, I think, being out in the field when it comes to, I'm kind of in the middle. So I'm between the client and the tile setter. So maybe sometimes, luckily for me, my background in tile helps me not put dumb ideas out there in front of the client, which I think is good, because I think that could happen. Then the client takes it out on the tile setter because they're like, oh, it doesn't look like Fran said it was going to look. What I do, and maybe the tile setters could benefit by this, I always tell my clients, like on a design build type project, that ultimately the end say of where something's going to end up is up to my tile setter. I feel like they're really strong at their skill set, and why not let them have the final say, like where something should go. So I think right from the beginning, I always say setting expectations are key to anything in the design field. I don't care what your trade is along the way. You set the expectations right up front. Like I tell people, it's right in my contract, I tell them right away, like the tile setter will have the final, like you might want that soap corner shelf up 60 inches above the floor. Well, there might be a reason why I can't go there, you know? So a lot of times the clients aren't home. We can't sit there calling them all day. You know what I mean? So I've set that expectation that I'm going to tell you kind of broadly what this is going to look like. The tile setter is going to kind of decide how to make the best outcome for like the size of the tile, the size of the overall space that he has to work in. You know, I'm sure you've all been through that. Everybody's kind of using 12 by 24s, right? And your shower might be 60 inches wide, and everybody wants them horizontally. But then you end up with more little chopped up pieces in the corners. And so that's always a hot debate in my world. Are they going vertical? Are they going horizontal? You know, that's always like a hot topic. Personally, I put them vertical, like in a 60-inch, like say you took out a tub, made it a shower. I put them vertical, so you have like 5 full pieces going across the back. Homeowners usually want them. I want them horizontal. Okay, but then like you have all the little cuts. Nobody likes cuts. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's.
I think that's, you know, speaks to your knowledge and your, you know, getting some of those tricks of the trade out there. And thanks for sharing those tips. What excites you right now? What industry trends are exciting you in the industry?
Definitely. I love that I see a lot of color coming back into the design. I feel like we're all white subway tiled out at this point, and I don't care if I ever see white 3x6 again, as long as I live. I'm glad there's bigger format tiles out there for sure. And trends, I think a lot of colors are going to start creeping back in, even darker colors. I have a couple things coming up that have the use of black tile again, which I think is pretty cool. Because for, you know, a couple years ago, no one would have bought a black tile to save their life. You know what I mean? So everything was white with more white with more white. Yeah. So I'm happy to see that we have color coming back into the design world again. And the clients, because they're so into social media, looking on different platforms for inspiration and pictures, they're seeing things with color again, because everybody's posting like the pattern floors. I love the pattern floor tiles. And I will tell you, somebody would have showed me a pattern floor tile as little as probably 3 years ago. I would have been like, that's terrible, right? But everybody's using it, and now it's become the norm. So I think it looks really, really nice. So I would probably say that's one of my favorite new design trends is the pattern floor tiles and stuff that we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Because we've seen so much plain and clean and simple for so long. It's nice to see something interesting to look at again, coming back out there.
Well, thanks for that answer. We've got a question from the audience, and if anybody else wants to chime in the Q&A box. Most designers in our area are hired directly by the homeowner, says Kevin, and they don't work for the builder necessarily. I guess the designer doesn't work with the builder. In this case, how do designers understand budget and pricing of the tile contractor while designing? Great question, Kevin.
It is a great question. And I feel, again, because I'm a little bit of that mixture of a hybrid person out there, I do design build. So when I meet a client, I am establishing a realistic budget. Again, that's setting expectation from that first phone call that I think everybody gets, right? It's like, well, I want my bathroom done. I always say, you know, well, where do you live? When do you want your project done? And what is your budget, right? And some people get offended by the budget question. I feel like we cannot professionally help them without establishing a budget. So I'm always in the forefront. I always kind of compare it to working with a real estate agent. They're going to ask you what town, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, but that fourth question is going to be, what is your budget, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like right out of the gate, don't be afraid to, one, ask what that budget is and set that budget realistically. I do think it's harder for people that are just strictly tile setters, because you're more in the contracting realm. You probably get a lot more phone calls from people that already maybe purchased their tile, so you can't even dictate where the material's coming from for the quality and stuff like that. I don't know. That's got to be a much different set of problems to combat, I would have to think, out in the field. For sure. Yeah. Which I feel a little bit lucky. I don't have to deal with that very much because of the way I run my business. But I know that all my guys on my jobs have that same situation. Yeah. So when I get to work with them on my projects, I often hear from them, oh, we're so glad that, you know, this is your project and we don't have to deal direct one-on-one with the client and stuff like that. So I think the original question was to the tile setters, and they're working with the designer, so they're not establishing that budget. That's a tough one to actually answer, because I'm sure every person that's working with a different person handles it in a different way. I would just probably sit down and see how to make it work.
I think the real answer there is remain in control as much as possible. Find a friend, you know, find your own Fran in your area, Kevin, and build that relationship, because what we're hearing here today from Fran and what we're learning in the field is designers are a good designer is worth their weight in gold, and build that relationship. It's going to take some time. Michelle says, I guess that's not a question. All right. Well, looks like we've answered all the questions. And Fran, I want to thank you again for sharing your history with us.
Yeah, it was fun. That was a good time. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to read through the comments, because I see there's some people asked some things or said some stuff, and I couldn't really look at it while I was talking. I don't think I can multitask.
Yeah, no. Don't try to do that. We appreciate your time and look forward to networking with you and wrapping this up. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. See you guys.